Hello everyone, welcome to Renewed Community here in the fabulous town of Sweetwater, Tennessee. I'd like to welcome everyone here, whether you're online or here in person. We meet every Monday at 6 p.m., beginning with a free meal, which is always a smacking meal. As y'all can tell, my belly is getting big for this meeting. But gotta thank the ladies so much back there in the back. They really do a lot of work for us. At 6:30, we begin our lesson that Roger does, to be followed by small group, where the real work begins, or I say, where the magic begins. We usually do the lesson centered around our small group. And last week, Roger talked about sponsors, what to look for the qualities of one, what to find, what should we expect, and where do we find one. Tonight, we're going to hear from our friend Scott Shaw, who has spoken to us before. Scott has been here many, many times, and he spoke here. Scott has been a sponsor to many, and will talk to us tonight about what he expects from us as a sponsee. So right now, I'm going to welcome up Chris so he can bring in the band. Thank y'all.
Hey everybody, it's good to be back again. We got, this is Brother Patrick, this is of course Brother Brandon and Miss Hannah. I know y'all have all got to listen to everybody here at least once or twice since we've all been here. So, but it's a blessing to be here and good listen.
Thank you so much.
Someone here who will
it up for you to speak. So come on and let you have at it. Welcome our brother as he comes up and gives the word.
Thank you guys for that introduction. What an amazing song that was. I'll tell you what, that hits you right in the feels or you ain't alive. Hi everybody, my name is Scott Shaw and I am a recovered alcoholic. Just a little bit about me as far as when I got sober. March 11th, 2006 is my sobriety date. I've got a home group. I have a sponsor still today. I think that's very important. And that's the way I grew up in my recovery. I was told that if I got a sponsor, I got somebody that might be able to check and make sure that everything that I've got running around in my head is in alignment with the truth. Because it's interesting how we as people can rationalize and justify different things. This is funny how we can do that. But anyways, a little bit. I understand that Roger spoke last week about looking for a sponsor, and finding someone to work with you, and kind of what to look for, the attributes of someone like that, to what that looks like. And so my talk today, it's going to be more along the lines of being a sponsor, and what it looks like for me on that end. Now, I want to back up a little bit. In my early recovery, I had a very active sponsor, and he had me get active right away. And I'm very, very grateful for that. I was not very grateful for that at the time. Okay? I'm going to say that again. I was not grateful for that, not at all at the time. As a matter of fact, I resented it. I resented it because I seen a lot of other people around me that were not nearly as active as I was. And I thought that was unfair. And I let him know about that. And you know what his answer to me was? Stick around, kid. See who's still sober in 5 or 10 years. And I'll tell you, I've stuck around. And a lot of those people that weren't doing the things that he had me doing aren't around today. Either in jail, they're dead, some of them. Some of them are in prison. Some of them we just don't know where they are. But so the reality is, it really is based on my willingness. My willingness to do things that don't make sense to me and that are uncomfortable for me. If you think about it, just logically, it makes kind of sense that if it makes sense to me and it's comfortable, I'm pretty much going to stay where I'm at. If it doesn't make sense to me and it's uncomfortable, there's a good chance that things are going to change. And that was my case, But it didn't feel good when I was going through that. I didn't understand. I really didn't understand why I needed to do the things that I'm doing. And I would say that that's probably the biggest component, and that's why I mentioned it first, is the action. So when someone approaches me and asks me to sponsor them, first of all, I see it as a great responsibility, to pass on a message that's been passed on to me, which means I need to stay active and I need to stay fresh in that message so that I can pass that on. Because, if I'm not doing that, if my mind's not constantly being renewed, I'm not constantly growing spiritually, how am I going to pass on something that I don't have? It reminds me of a story. And you know what? I didn't even expect to say what I'm saying already right now. It's kind of leading me in whichever way. And it's the Holy Spirit, because I pray. I ask and invite God into every time I speak, anytime just about everything I do. It's actually the greatest life that I could have ever imagined living. And I'm either asking and inviting God in, or I'm shutting God out. There is no in between. That's the way I see it. It's very black and white for me today. I'm either asking and inviting God into it, or I'm shutting him out. And you think, well, there's all these little aspects of life. No, if you ask and invite him into those too, he can, he's way better at stuff than I am. That's what I've learned. So, anyways, I don't know how I got off on that little rabbit hole, but that's the thing that we teach. That's what recovery teaches. The recovery, what I was taught. Now I'm going to just be very frank with you. I'm a recovered alcoholic, so my issue was alcohol and drugs. And I went to this gentleman and I were talking just right before the meeting. I actually went to a building in Cape Coral, Florida. It was owned by a Swaffist. And I walked into that place and I was looking for a certain 12-step recovery program. And I ended up going to another meeting that was meeting there. They just happened to be meeting there. And that was not the meeting I was looking for. But that was the one I landed at. And I was there not by accident. I think that was divine order. Because I knew exactly what my problem was. Well, if I knew what my problem was, I wouldn't have the problem, because I would have been able to solve the problem. So you can't solve a problem with the same mind that created it. But that's what I was attempting to do, and I was in a loop of consistent, not only failure, but it was getting worse and worse and worse. That's how my life was going. And, oh, I see what I did wrong last time. Oh, I know what I did. I shouldn't have been around those people, the cops. They're out to get me, this kind of stuff. That, until I got with somebody that had taken some action and been humble enough to take direction from another person that had recovered. And they were willing to take me through that process. Until I humbled myself to go through that process, I wasn't going to get anywhere. I just wasn't going to get anywhere. So I know I'm talking a little bit about being sponsored, but I think that's an important segue into being a sponsor. Because part of that whole recovery process is learning how to work with others. I may not get this exactly right, but from what I understand, the Sea of Jordan and the Dead Sea are both fed from either the River Euphrates or River Jordan. Does anybody know the answer to that? Doesn't matter. It's the same river that feeds both of them. One is teeming with life, and the other one is dead, stale, nothing living in it at all. What's the difference between them? Both of them have fresh water filling them. So what's the difference? The river, or the Sea of Jordan that's teeming with life has an outlet. Okay? So what I just said as a sponsor, I have an outlet. I just can't get filled and get what I want, take what I need, think what I need, and then go on my merry way. I get to be a channel for God. That's not, that requires an inlet and an outlet. So as a sponsor, we're, with time, that's the best, that's the only commodity that's limited. We all have a limited amount of time. So as a sponsor, what I'm looking for in someone when they approach me, first of all, I'm very honored that anybody would ask me. And I let them know that. I tell them that right up front. Thank you very much. I'm honored that you would ask. What are you willing to do? That is my very next question to them. And if the answer truly is anything other than anything at all, I'll talk with them. We'll talk about, I'll be their friend. I'll be a part of their network, But if they say they can't do this or they can't do that, and I've had that. I didn't even ask them to do anything yet. They're already making excuses as to what they won't do and why they won't do that. So I already know that they're not ready. They need to go do some more research and development. Unfortunately, that's the way I see it, and that seems pretty harsh, black and white, but I've done this for a while. And after you've done this for a while, you understand the people that are going to make it. And what happens, it's not that you understand the people that are going to make it. You understand that action takers, people that are willing, people that have that gift of desperation are going to be the ones that are going to, as you go further into those steps, it gets uncomfortable. It gets really uncomfortable. And if they're balking now and you ain't even done the first, any kind of work, well, then it's very likely they're gonna go through the process of getting very uncomfortable. And I had to get very uncomfortable to become comfortable, if that makes any sense to you. So right off the rip, like I said, that's the very first question that I asked. So I'm going to try to get back to my notes here because I got a lot of stuff running through my mind. This is great. God, your will, not mine, be done. So bring the body and the mind will follow. And when I say that, what I mean is, all my life for years, I attempted to think my way into right living, right acting, right actions. I tried to think my way into right living, okay? Well, recovery with sponsorship through the steps showed me how to act my way into right thinking. And if I acted my way into right thinking, right living just follows right thinking. But how do I get to right thinking? I had to take actions. See, all my life I tried to think my way into right living. That didn't work because I'm still trying to fix the same problem, or the problem with the same mind that created it. So I needed a source outside of me. And the best way I can describe sponsorship to you was I approached a man, asked him to sponsor me, asked me what I was willing to do. I told him I was willing to do anything. He said, great, because I'm going to hold you accountable to that. And then he gave me a list of things to do. And they were simple, it seemed. It seemed complicated to me, but it was pray in the morning, ask God to keep you sober. Away from drugs and alcohol that day, every day. Call every day. Well, why do I have to call every day? He didn't answer those questions. He said, that's management, that's need to know stuff. Are you willing to do this or not? It's okay if you're not. We'll be friends. I'm not going to force you to do anything. But if you're willing to do what I did, I'm never going to ask you to do anything that I haven't done. If you're willing to do that, okay, all right, I'll call you every day. Well, now, see, what I learn is I learn in hindsight. As a sponsee, I never learned, it never seemed like I learned or understood why I was doing what I was doing. In hindsight, I understood it. Now, I actually have this written down. I want to give you an analogy, if you may, of two different movies that I think of when I try to describe this, okay? How many have seen the movie The Matrix? Come on, show of hands, come on. Group participation. Movie The Matrix, okay? How many have seen the movie The Karate Kid? Okay, right, okay. So if you're unfamiliar with the movie The Matrix, there's a scene in there that he is in like a cocoon, and the big ship comes down and gets him out of the cocoon. They bring him into the ship, and he understands that he's been living in a computer world, okay? But the thing that they do is they set him down in a chair, and they program in Kung Fu Karate, and they hit a button, and this probe goes into the back of his head, and then suddenly he knows karate in like 30 seconds. He gets like 30 years of training in 30 seconds. He's black belt, right? And they can do this with multiple subjects. This is the movie, okay? I'm just giving you a description of it. So those of you who have seen The Karate Kid know, the story with The Karate Kid. So when I got into my recovery, what I wanted was The Matrix, okay? I wanted to just sit back and be programmed and everything. All of a sudden I had 20 years sobriety and everything was, fine and dandy. I didn't want to do anything for it. What my experience was more like was the movie The Karate Kid. Wax on, wax off. Why? Just you. I know how to do this. Don't do it in circles. Why? Why are you? This guy's trying to micromanage me. Remember how Daniel-san got in that movie, right? So, after painting the fence, and I know how to paint a fence. Come on, man. No. You got to bend your wrist, paint the fence like this. There was purpose in everything he did, right? That's how my experience was with this. I didn't understand the purpose, but the day that Daniel-san in the movie The Karate Kid comes up to him and says, "You haven't taught me anything. You've just made me your personal slave." And he says, "Oh yeah? Wax on." And then he throws some punches and he says, "Paint the fence." And he throws some kicks and he realizes that, oh my goodness, I've learned karate through this process. And that gets me emotional because that's really how my experience through sponsorship and working through the steps was. I did not understand it as I was going along. But in hindsight, I see lesson after lesson after lesson after lesson. I see my relationship with God being more pure and functioning than it was ever able to be before. And I'll tell you what, it's no secret. Guess what the secret to life is? If you want to know the secret solution to anything in life, it's a relationship with God. That's the secret. And what the 12 steps do is bring you into a relationship with God where you are dependent on God, not dependent on a sponsor. Okay, I'm going to say it again. That's what the 12 steps are designed to do. They are designed to help you find God, which will solve every problem. There's not a problem on the universe that God can't solve. But what I do is I'm either inviting him in, like I said before, or I'm edging him out. Edging God out, EGO. What's that? EGO. Ego. Right. So these are all little things I picked up along the way, Something I wanted to mention too was, like I was talking about the list that I give people. I'm just going to tell you exactly how it works with me. It's precisely how it works with me. Because I do it just like my sponsor did it with me. I give them my telephone number after they've said they're willing to do anything. I said, please give me a call tomorrow. 9 times out of 10, unfortunately, I don't get a call the next day. Okay, so that shows me through how do you know if an alcoholic and an addict is lying? Their lips are moving. We don't watch their mouth, we watch their feet. We watch their actions they take. Okay, the guy that really wants this, the guy that has that gift of desperation, G-O-D, gift of desperation, that's a willingness that was produced through me screwing up my life. I finally got that gift, and I see it today. Again, hindsight, I see it as a gift. At the time, it felt like a curse. My life was falling apart. But I got this gift of desperation, which produced a willingness in me to do things that were uncomfortable and didn't make sense to me. That was the only way I was going to recover. Okay? So if you're not willing to do things that are uncomfortable and don't make sense to you, hey, we know a guy. You can ask, God, help me with willingness. Help me with the willingness to get uncomfortable and be willing to do whatever it takes to find victory over whatever this whatever you're dealing with, you know? So with that, like I said, that list, what I was getting to was precisely what I do. The guys that do call, we have a little talk. I ask them, hey, you got plans tonight? You're going to a meeting, this kind of thing? We just do a little chat. Give me a call tomorrow. If they've given me a call for 7 days in a row, because that's what my sponsor did, I didn't know he was doing that. But after 7 days of calling him consistent, he said, let's meet. So I met with him. We sat down. He gave me this list. He told me, hey, pray in the morning, ask God to keep you away from drugs and alcohol. Do 3 good things for other people without anybody else finding out about it. That means you're not allowed to tell anybody, and you're not allowed to get caught. And if you get caught, that's okay. Just do another one, and another one, and another one until you don't get caught. See, that action, that doesn't make any sense, does it? How is that going to help you stay sober? Because I'm going from selfish to selfless. It's retraining me. It's putting actual practical application and action into something that, again, that was just him telling me wax on. Wax on. That don't make no sense to me. But I could describe it to you now and tell you in hindsight what was going on. You know, my mind needed to change. It was all about Scott, me, how everybody has affected me. I. My eyes were too close together. Yeah, see, that's a problem. So, anyway, he gave me this list. It included the call him every day, pray first thing in the morning, ask God to keep me away from drugs and alcohol, do 3 good things for other people without anybody finding out about it, go to 90 meetings in 90 days. Man, I can't do that. I got a family, I got my kids that go, they play soccer, baseball. I got a business. I can't do any of that. I did it. He did it too. The guy that held my hand through that process did it too. And like I started to say, really, sponsorship is literally a man or a woman having their hand in God's hand, taking you by the hand. And you're getting God through them for a little while. And over this process of the steps, they connect your hand into God's hand. As soon as your hand gets connected into God's hand, your hand goes back out and so does theirs. And you reconcile more people to God. That's what the sponsorship is. It's not that God needs us to recreate lives. He allows us the opportunity to be a part of watching him recreate lives. That's a beautiful thing. If you've never seen that, I'm telling you, that's a ride of a lifetime. That's part of my life today, is watching lights come on in someone's eyes, seeing their family restored, seeing them return to a functioning member of society, seeing stuff that you never could have imagined, seeing them get to meet their actual God-created self. It's like, hey, Scott, meet Scott. That was the process of the steps. That's what happened to me through that process. But I had to be willing. So that's what I look for. As a sponsor, I look for that willingness, you know. And it's okay. I don't, you know, I will hold them accountable, and that makes them very uncomfortable. I don't do it mean. I just, matter of fact, hey, you said you'd do this. You agreed to do this. You're not doing this. And they may not call anymore. Well, they may need some more research and development. As harsh as that sounds, that's just the way that the way I was sponsored and the way that I sponsored. You know, and it's not like I just drop them off or, you know, say, oh, I'm writing you off. No. I've had guys come back to me time and time and time. Again, who am I? All I'm there to be is available and supposed to be God's love. That's it. So if they keep coming back, you know, maybe one day they'll come back and stay. Maybe one day they'll come back and get it. If they're willing to take some actions, I work with them. But the rest of that list. So we've gotten already, pray in the morning, call every day, 3 good things for other people, 90 meetings in 90 days. Meet with your sponsor once a week for step work, that's an hour a week. And pray at night, thanking him for keeping you sober. That was the list I was given. And he assured me that if I would do those things, I would never have to drink again. I would not have the need to drink again, that the desire to drink would leave me. And I was like, this guy don't know who he's talking to. Buddy, I've had the desire to drink since I was 12 years old. I mean, I wake up in the morning and I'm thinking about it. And I'm either thinking about alcohol or thinking about how I'm not going to drink alcohol, but you're still thinking about alcohol, folks. Okay? Yeah, didn't know that. See that again, that's another hindsight lesson. So, but I see these things only by getting involved, taking some actions, doing what other people that have done it before me did. It's as simple as that. It's really monkey see, monkey do. But am I willing? Am I willing? If I'm not willing, unfortunately, I've seen all kinds of tragic stuff. I've seen a lot of people die. And when it comes to drugs and alcohol, it's a life or death thing. It really, really is. But, it's strange to think, why it's such a hard choice for a guy like me. Happy, joyous, and free, or jails, institutions, and death. I don't know why that's such a difficult choice for guys like me, but it can be. So, let's see here, on my notes. I went over the list, we talked about the matrix and the Karate Kid. Willingness to take the action required for the 12 steps. Gift of desperation, that's what I have here. We've covered that stuff, guys. I want to thank you so much. Roger, if you see this later, thank you so much for inviting me to come and share, and God bless you all, and I appreciate it very much, the opportunity.
Easy. Alrighty, hearing Ms. Shaw there talk, it made me really think about me first working the steps and finding my sponsor. I had to share this, it came on my heart. I wasn't really comfortable in my own skin to begin when I started my steps, and my sponsor, I know God put him in my path. He's a great guy. Thank you so much, Alder, for working the steps with me and getting me through. And at first, I didn't know how to even trust no one. I was so caught up in that lifestyle of my addiction. So I wasn't gonna say, hey, you'll share everything out with some stranger that I didn't know. But when I first met him, he was messed up too, and he welcomed me with his mess. And now I can turn my mess into a message. And that's really something that I thrive off of. But with that, I'm going to close. We want to thank y'all so much for coming. Thank y'all so much online. We love you, but God loves you more. Thank you.